Gola, 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 gola. Gola, 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 gola.
Itskwena is a creator from Pretoria, South Africa. I've always viewed myself as someone who is limitless, someone who's curious, someone who's an explorer of life, I've never really limited myself in terms of things I've explored, whether it's music or business or any other form of expression or filming or content. I've always just tried to find my own voice or own space in whatever lane I may find myself in, and really try to communicate that. And I think that with this new project, you'll start to really understand who she is. And I'm really excited for those who get to hear it and those who get to experience the new body of work and everything around it. They'll get to, get a glimpse of Gwena's world, and I think it will be quite the experience.
The first EP, Dawn, how was the creation process compared to the new album project?
The creative process for my previous EP was very simple. I was just really experimenting and I didn't really think too much about it. It was the quickest thing I've done, really. It was over 3 days. And I just wanted to record something and just put it out and see how it lands. I didn't really think too much about it. There was no real concept. There was no plan. There was no strategy. There was no thought process or, whereas with this project this time around, it took a bit longer. I'd say the life process took, I'd say 2 years or so. The experiences that I had to accumulate, to be able to produce this body of work took about 2 years or more. But the recording process also took about, roughly 3 months or so. And I really took my time. Whereas, with the previous project, I was experimenting. And whereas with this project, I've really found my voice and my sound. And it's quite unique to me. And I think the biggest challenge is trying to, was really trying to find my space. And I think I've really accepted that I'm in my own lane. And that in itself is such a beautiful thing. And I've really enjoyed the creative process. I didn't rush it. There was no deadline. There was no pressure. And this project feels like a complete thought. Each song leads to the next, and it's a journey. And you go on this journey with me. And it feels like a full body of work, and you get to really understand me as a creative, as an artist, as a writer, as a producer, as a singer, just as a person, my own observations of the world, my own experiences, my my thoughts, my freedoms. I think I was really free on this album. I really had no limitations as to what I wanted to do. I didn't really stick to any genre. I had no pressure as to, what is the Gwena sound. I just found it along the way, and I think that was really freeing for me. And I really enjoyed that process, and I think that's the main thing. And I'd say that's the main thing. I've really grown from the previous project, and you hear it. You hear it in the sound, the quality, and the messaging. And yeah.
The sound of Dawn was organic. What was the audience reception?
I think for the most part, people were really surprised that I make music, period. That's just like the main thing, right? Because I come from a business, finance side of life. After the shock, it was more like people were really like surprised as to how real, and they felt not real. I think real is not the best word. I think we've overused the word authentic, but just the ability to be vulnerable and really share my feelings around how I felt about things. The previous album, I shared my experiences around imposter syndrome, and a lot of people resonated with that. And a lot of people, you'd be surprised, people I look up to. I wouldn't say look up to, but people I'm inspired by. People I'm inspired by, and in some capacity, every creative or any person in leadership or any person pushing boundaries in whatever space they occupy, there will be some element of discomfort, some element of imposter syndrome, or because you are in charted territory. You're in spaces that people have not necessarily walked, maybe within your own sphere, maybe you're within your own community, and that's scary a little bit. It's uncomfortable, and the questions of whether you're worthy, the questions whether you're ready always come up. And oftentimes you are ready, oftentimes you are enough, oftentimes you are what is needed. But it doesn't mean that those questions don't come, those voices are not there, and that those voices don't exist within all of us. But I think my ability to be vulnerable, and that I think is still a consistent thread in my new music. I think for me, music is a space where I can share things that I wouldn't necessarily share in conversation or in certain spaces that I occupy. I think music has always been a means to connect to people, emotionally, spiritually, and in other ways, man. It creates community, man. We connect through music. We go to concerts, we gather as friends, family. When we're going through things, we have a specific song or album or artist that we listen to, So, yeah, I think that for me has been it.
How do you measure your improvement when in the process of creating music?
I think as a creative, we always strive for perfection, but I think that in itself doesn't even exist. I think I find that I create my best work when I let go of myself and let go of the illusion of control and let the music take me where it needs to go. And there's no measurement for me, really. Sometimes the simplest songs, the simplest melodies are the best. It's not about the most complicated or the most intricate lyrics. It's about, what feels right in the moment and communicating that. So there's no measurement. I think letting go of perfection for me is ultimately the true measurement at this stage. I haven't reached mastery yet, and obviously someday I'll maybe get to a point where I maybe relook at this and feel differently, but my approach is that create the work, put it out, and whoever it's for, and whether it's received positively or negatively by critics is really not my concern. It's for those it's meant for, and yeah.
Why was there so much sadness in the Dawn EP songs?
I think the album title Dawn speaks for itself. It speaks about the darkest moment just before the sun comes out. I've always used music as a form of healing for myself, in a hope that those who listen to it will also get some form of healing for whatever they're going through, or some form of release, man. Or if it's just like a vibe, let it be that, or an escape, even if it's just for the moment. I think music is always a reflection of where you are at that point in time, and I think music for me has always helped me process my own thoughts, my own feelings in ways that I haven't been able to articulate in other forms. And perhaps it was sad, or perhaps it wasn't, depending on how you look at it. I felt like it was a coming out party. It felt like a release for me. It felt like a good moment, and sometimes the birthing process is painful, but once the baby's born, you forget that there was pain, So it depends. Not that I've given birth before, so I don't know. Those who have will tell me. But I'm told that you sort of forget to a degree once the blessing comes forth that you find the joy in it, and that's what it was for me, and it was healing for me, and yeah.
What does the new album name mean to you, and where does it all come from? For example, life experiences, a personal special somebody, loss.
Gola Peu. the new project, the title. It came to me during the creative process. I didn't start with the title. I just started making music, and I knew that the title will come. I had many titles in my mind, like that I won't mention here because I don't think they will land. But I landed on Gola Peu because I think it really captures the journey of the album. Gola Peu means the seed must grow, kasepedi. And for me, it symbolizes the journey of growth. It symbolizes the seed within each of all of us, within each of us rather, and that can be a dream, that can be a goal that is unrealized, something that we want to do with its potential even to become whatever. Whether it's us, right? And for me, it was inspired by my own growth journey as an individual, and my hope with the album and those who get to experience it is that, one, they'll be inspired to go on their own growth journeys. Two, they'll reflect on their own personal growth journeys, and and really receive it in a way that fulfills them. You know, once you create a body of work, or once you create something and you put it out in the world, you have very little control over what it becomes for the next person. So I've detached myself from how the next person may receive it. I have my hopes, you know, like I've said, like this is what I hope it will be for the next person, but I don't know what, you know, they will receive it as. Because once it's out there, it's no longer my own, you know. It's in their ears, it's in their world. It's like your favorite song. You remember it at the party or in the car or when you're going through what you're going through. You don't necessarily remember it as maybe what the artist had intended it for. Maybe it was, maybe not. We don't know. And you hear it throughout the album. You hear my growth throughout the album, and at the end of it, it makes sense, you know. And I really can't wait for people to listen to it, to experience it for themselves, because I've really enjoyed the process of creating it and really getting feedback from the few people around me who've heard some of it, and
What are your coping mechanisms when creating the new project when all was not well, and do you still practice them presently?
I think there's no clear coping mechanism, and I don't really use it or practice it that much outside of. So for me, when I'm recording, I detach myself a lot from the world. I'll go into my own space and I record and I work on the project. And for that period, I have very limited interaction with the rest of the world in terms of like social activities and that's my coping mechanism, because it is challenging. I wouldn't do it for a long period of time. I don't advise it. But for a short period of time, it is required for me to get it done. I don't see how else I could have gotten it done. So that 3 months was quite intense. I won't do it until I don't know when, but I wouldn't do it. Yeah, no, definitely not doing it for a long time, for sure. I don't know if that's a coping mechanism, but yeah, no. The coping mechanism is do it quickly, do it fast, and then get out. And yeah.
What's next after the release of the new album?
There's a lot coming after the release of the album, but the first thing is to rest, because life is about balance, right? I think the main thing for me is experiencing the album from the lens of other people experiencing it with me. It's no longer my own. I think I've already mentioned that already. And that's really what's next. You know, whether it's going to be online, offline. And yeah, so I can't wait to engage with you all, meet you all online and offline. And I hope to see you soon.